There's so many opportunities that come our way that also can be a distraction,
True.
also can tie us up as an individual that takes time away from us, your marriage, your family. And that is important as well as to make sure that we understand as a one flesh couple which opportunities are best for us to pursue.
You're listening to the Favorite Marriage Podcast, a place where you and your spouse can experience God's favor on your forever. Join us as we explore relevant topics and provide practical tools for your marriage toolbox. Here's this week's episode of The Favorite Marriage. Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Favorite Marriage Podcast, your go-to podcast that provides marriage tools for your toolbox. We are your hosts, Monty and Jeannine Mora, and we're glad you're tuning in to another episode. We have an exciting episode that we're going to be sharing today, Jeannine. But first, we like to just celebrate it a little bit, a big
Okay.
milestone for the podcast. This podcast, the first episode of 2025, marks our 50th podcast episode of
Wow.
the Favorite Marriage Podcast.
The big 5-0.
Yeah. So we reached the 50 club,
Yes.
like in age and also in the podcast
That's
world.
right.
Yeah. Well, in this episode, we're going to be talking about something that is so crucial for every marriage
Mhm.
as you're starting the new year. And we're going to talk about how a married couple can seize opportunities, not only within their marriage, but just in life in general. Now's a time where a lot of couples are thinking about goals and resolutions and things
Mhm.
like that. But I like to think of the word goals or resolutions in the word opportunities.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of opportunities this year
Yes.
for us as a married couple.
So it is your opportunity day, opportunity week. It might be an opportunity month, but let's definitely make it an opportunity year. There's, like you said, Monty, there's a lot of people making a lot of goals, resolutions. There's a lot of opportunities being opened. And this is a perfect time to kind of consider what can that look like for us as a married couple.
Yeah. And the information we're going to be sharing today um is going to help a married couple to kind of spot opportunities,
Mhm.
because many times we go through life and it happens so fast, and sometimes those opportunities just kind of pass us by.
Right.
And so we're going to give some actionable tools
Hmm.
today on how to really spot opportunities and then seize them and
Yeah.
take advantage of them for the benefit of each other and also for the
Right.
glory of God.
And also recognizing which opportunities to take, right? There's so many opportunities that come our way that also can be a distraction,
True.
also can tie us up as an individual that takes time away from us, your marriage, your family. And that is important as well as to make sure that we understand as a one flesh couple which opportunities are best for us to
Mm,
pursue.
yeah, that's a good point,
Mhm.
because we can do a lot of things
Right.
that don't matter,
So true.
right?
Hmm.
And so let's go ahead and dive in and share these actionable
Okay.
tools with our audience and all of our beautiful married couples that are listening today. Actionable tool number one. I think this is a really important one. And that is, as a married couple in 2025, learn to live with your eyes wide open.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that, or what we mean by that, is simply living with this sense of awareness, living with this sense of having our eyes aware and open to not only the needs of ourself, the needs
Right.
of our spouse, but to the needs of other people as well.
For sure.
So this awareness is so crucial, so vital, that it really prompts us to want to talk about how do we live with our eyes wide open as a married couple.
Yeah. And we want you to take each one of these points and not only apply them to you and your spouse, like here vertically. No, that is horizontally,
Yeah.
but also vertically and asking God, how
Yeah.
can we keep our eyes wide open towards what you want for us
Mhm.
as not just a married couple, but as a family
Mm.
and our careers. And it just doesn't have to apply just to you as a husband and wife, but
Yeah.
eyes wide open to all areas of your life.
Sure. Yeah. And you think about like opportunities and seizing those opportunities in our life and your family and for other
Mhm.
people, you can't seize an opportunity if you don't see it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you have to be keen, you have to be, intuitive to, like, your surroundings, your atmosphere, the environment in your home, the environment in your marriage, and always be looking for those moments where you can meet that need of your spouse, you
Mhm.
know? And I think that's the one of the bigger things is you're hearing us and you're saying, "Well, what do you mean seizing opportunities?" Well, we have needs. I
Mhm.
have needs as a husband, you have needs as a wife. And so, what can I do as far as keeping my eyes wide open so that I can see your needs and seize those moments to where I can perhaps maybe meet your needs and, of course, vice versa.
Absolutely. And when you think of eyes wide open, we think of sight, vision,
Yeah.
right? And perspective. So making sure that we are being careful not to only see our perspective, but our spouse's perspective, our children's perspective, and just having your eyes wide open in that sense and trying to view life and or the situation, the circumstance that you're in outside of your own perspective, it
Mm,
really helps with the communication, amongst you, your spouse,
sure.
your colleagues at work,
Mhm.
your children, just being less selfish, because when we go when we say go into something with your eyes wide open, it's like you're looking around and you're usually trying to, um, view the area or view the situation. And I think for me, and I'm speaking for just for myself,
Okay.
I'm always like, who's coming at me? Like being aware of how is this going to harm me, or I'm more self-centered when I'm going into a situation, eyes wide open. And I think that's kind of
Mm,
like how that term is said. I go into it with your eyes wide open. It's kind of a way to protect yourself, right?
mhm.
So if we go into a situation with our eyes wide open and have the perspective of others, then it just becomes something that you can handle not just alone, but together.
Sure.
Does that make sense? I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm not getting that one
No, no.
through.
No, you are because and maybe you can kind of if I'm following and tracking with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Many times you can go into a situation or an environment, you can be on the offensive mode or
There you
defensive
go.
mode, right?
Exactly.
So
That's
if
what
you
I was
walk
thinking.
into a
Mhm.
situation, you're in a defensive mode, you're like eyes wide open, you're aware to like,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
if you're offensive, you're looking more for a need, like you can
Yes.
help a need that you
Yeah,
can fulfill.
good. See how we just helped each other there? I love
Did
that.
I
Yes, that's
kind
exactly
of
what I was
clarify
trying
what you're
to
trying to say?
say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I knew where you were going with it. It was just like
I was having a hard
sister
time.
needs a little
Like,
bit of help here.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You had your eyes wide open
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. So think about even like right now today, as you're if you're listening to this podcast, if you're driving the car, or if you're sitting down somewhere with your spouse, we want you to ask yourself, what opportunities today, this next week, can you
Mhm.
both take advantage of, and what can you pay more attention to regarding your marriage, your children,
Mhm.
your family, neighbors, and coworkers? Just live with your eyes wide open with this sense of awareness, ready to fulfill, ready to help and serve each other's needs.
Mhm. Yes. Guaranteed if you do that, you're gonna find yourself finding those
Mm,
opportunities,
for sure.
um, more than you would think.
Mhm. Yeah, you just got to be looking for it.
Because
Yeah,
there's plenty of need
yeah,
out there.
yeah. And God is a good God to where if you ask God to use me, you ask God to show me, He is so good to where He's going to bring situations your way throughout the week
Mhm.
within your home, your marriage, and He's going to say, "Here
Yeah.
it is. Take your turn. It's your shot. Go for it.
Yeah.
Here's your opportunity."
And why are we saying this? Like, why are we encouraging couples to invest in others, invest in each other, to be selfless? Because when we plant these seeds,
Mm,
that's gonna grow in our hearts of serving, and it fulfills something we need inside as humans, like fulfilling someone else's need, serving,
mm,
helping, it's does the soul good. you
Sure
know,
it is.
and we're planting those spiritual seeds. And I'm saying even now, like if you are in a place in your marriage where you're struggling in certain areas, try serving. Try taking
Mm,
the focus off of you and put it on someone else because there are always other people out there that are in more pain and more need, than what you
mhm,
might find your situation. And there's
mm,
someone is always worse off, is what I'm trying to
mhm,
say. And whether that be financially, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever that would look like, there's always someone who needs more than what we. Again, I'm needing a little help here.
mm.
Yeah, it's just needing some more.
Assistance and help along the
Yeah.
way, yeah. Yeah, and you make a good point about the idea of planting a seed. When you're
Mhm.
serving somebody else, you're planting a seed of kindness, you're planting a seed of
Yes.
love, and we know that what we plant is what we'll harvest.
Mhm.
And like they say, if you want love, plant love. Give love out to somebody. If you
Yeah,
want joy, plant joy into somebody else. If you need encouragement, plant the seed of encouragement into somebody else.
absolutely.
And in doing so, um, your life becomes better. Your life becomes more enriched because your world is not about only you, but
Mhm.
your world is about serving other people. And so that's why it's crucial to
Right.
have your eyes wide open and ready to look for those needs and seize those opportunities.
Yep.
Yeah,
And asking the Lord to lead you in those.
yeah, absolutely. The other thought we're talking about today, the other actionable tool, Janine, is living with our hearts unlocked.
Yeah.
And that's so huge for a married couple simply because um, this idea of living with our hearts unlocked, it really opens opportunity for to show empathy
Mhm.
and also opportunity to show compassion.
Yeah.
And those are two big words, especially when it comes to marriage
Yes.
and when it comes to our relationship with other people. And so, in order for us to seize those opportunities in 2025, living with our hearts unlocked,
Mhm.
we need to be looking for ways how we can be empathetic towards each other
Right.
and show that love and most of all that compassion that is
Yeah.
so needed today in the world.
And your heart can be unlocked for so many different reasons. You might have a locked heart, right? Because there's been hurt and you're locking your heart because you're protecting your heart and you're not going to let anybody in and you're guarded.
Mm,
And that is a really big step of faith and asking the Lord to help you unlock your heart because of that pain, the
mm,
betrayal, the lack of trust with the person, and, you know, being that this is a marriage podcast with your spouse, we see that a lot, right?
mhm,
They can't move forward. They can't get past whatever they're struggling with because they have locked hearts.
mm.
And again, I know you're becoming vulnerable once
That's
again.
the word I was thinking,
Yeah,
vulnerable.
when
Yeah.
you unlock your heart, but I guarantee you that is where God wants us to be
Mhm,
because that's where the issues of life flow, right?
mm,
From our
mhm,
hearts. And if you can trust God before anybody else and trust him to guard your heart, you would just say, "Lord, I unlock my heart and allow him to be the one that guards your heart,
mm,
not you.
mhm,
Don't be the one that locks it up and throws away the key. The Lord would be asking someone out there maybe today is unlock your heart once again to me so that I can heal that heart with your spouse, with your children, with a parent or sibling or family member,
mhm,
friend, whoever that might be, and just trust in
mhm.
the one you can put your trust in, and is in the Lord."
Yeah. And a part of the part of unlocking your heart, Janine, is about forgiveness.
Mhm.
Many times our hearts get locked and closed up
Yeah.
because we've been hurt. Maybe our spouse hurt us or somebody else hurt us, a family member hurt us, and we close up and we don't want anybody to come in and say, I'm they're not gonna hurt
Mhm.
me again.
Right.
And so one of the ways to become vulnerable again and to unlock your heart is to learn this amazing pathway of forgiveness. And
Mhm.
forgiveness is not an easy feat. It takes a
Yes.
lot of courage to step out in faith and to forgive your spouse and to forgive a family member, a friend, a neighbor, or a coworker. But once you release them, man, that really releases your heart to want to love
Yes.
again and trust again. But let me circle back to this idea of unlocking our hearts between a husband and wife.
Mhm.
When my heart is unlocked to you and your heart is unlocked to me, what we do is we create a safe space for us to share,
Mhm.
talk, and communicate. And
Yes.
so I know for us, we want to be a safe place. I need you to be a safe
Yes.
place for me where I can share my fears, I can share my concerns, I can share my ideas, I can share my apprehensions. I can do that because you unlocked your heart to me and I've unlocked my heart to you, and I know that you are my safe
Yes.
place. And that's important for a spouse to live
Correct.
that out, right?
Absolutely. And also what it does, Monty, is when you're living with an unlocked heart through life, when life hits you hard and you come to a situation or a crisis, whether it's financial, or in our case right now, physical, it gives you that opportunity to be able to share, like you said. I mean, if we were dealing with locked hearts in the just the current situation of health issues right now, that would be one more thing, one more struggle, one more wall that would
Mm,
be put up, and it would be very difficult to try to move through this situation and learn, how do we navigate through this situation with locked
mhm.
hearts.
Sure.
But because we have already worked on that, um, it makes it so much easier to go through what we're going through when I'm able to just to pour out and let you know, like, this is what's happening, this is what I need, and be able to trust you.
Mhm. Sure.
So already having those unlocked hearts prepares you for whatever's to come.
Sure.
If
Yeah.
you're living with a locked heart, trials and tribulations in the future are going to be a lot harder to get through.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And kinda going back to the idea of this compassion thing and being empathetic towards your spouse,
Mhm.
one of the ways that we've discovered how to unlock each other's hearts is by asking good questions. You know,
Yes.
it's important to ask those really, um, good questions because questions to one another really can reveal the depth of what's inside of our hearts.
Mhm.
You know, so say for example, if I asked you the question, Janine, honey, baby doll, what can I do to support you in your career and your goals this year?
Mhm.
When I ask you that, how would you respond? What would you say?
Yeah, well, I'd be excited to share, and what it would make me feel is just supported and loved.
Mhm,
So opening that door just also creates a new level of intimacy as
mhm,
well,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
that's going to take a lot of load off of me.
sure. Yeah. So when you that question takes the load off of you. The question allows you to share your heart. It's unlocked now. You get to reveal what's inside of you, whereas
Mhm.
maybe you haven't shared your goals or your career goals with me yet, which I know you have. But maybe you've been carrying them alone, and you feel like only I understand what my
Yeah.
goals and my dreams are. But when your spouse comes alongside and say, "Hey, let me help you carry that load. Let me help you
Yeah.
fulfill your goals and your dreams." That's a
It's
form of
amazing.
empathy and it's a form of compassion. It's a form of love as
Mhm.
well towards you.
Right, and if your spouse is not asking those questions, because just maybe they're just not discerning at the moment, like, for example, this morning, like, what we just did today,
Yeah.
right? No questions were asked, but I know because I have an unlocked heart, you have an unlocked heart, we're going into this new year with our eyes wide open. I knew I needed to share with you how I woke up and the struggles that I had, and I listed these things, like, this is what I'm thinking about all these
Mm.
areas of my life, and it's just feeling a little overwhelming.
Mhm.
And then I worked through those things in prayer, and the Lord and I came up with some action steps. So I presented those with you, and just to get it off of my chest so that
Yeah.
why I might have been a little down, or why I'm feeling a little agitated or stressed. Like, you're not lost.
Mm.
I've let
Yeah.
you in to my heart and
Yeah.
to my mind. And that's so important. Having that unlocked heart
Mhm.
allowed you to come in and understand me more, instead of you thinking, "Why is she acting the fool today?" Or,
No, I
"Why
wasn't thinking that.
why is she crying? She's always crying." So,
Call
letting
the
you
ambulance.
in.
Okay, not really.
So, allowing you into my heart, and you were able to look at those action steps and say, "Oh, well, I can do that.
Mhm.
Like, let me help there."
Sure.
And I was like, "Oh," and
Yeah.
that's not even what my intention was, but because you have that unlocked heart and
Mhm.
eyes wide open, and then the
Yeah.
next one kind of is a great segue into the next point,
Yeah.
that just helped tremendously.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah, and our final thought, which you did a good setup with that, is in 2025, how can we as a married couple live with willing hands to
Mhm.
help each other? Like, so
Yes.
willing hands. So if you're watching us on YouTube, we both have our hands out and almost like saying, "Here,
Yes.
my hands are willing to help you with whatever you might need." And so, this is a part of life in marriage where you begin to really put in the work, right?
Yes.
We've always said that marriage is not hard, but marriage takes hard work,
Mhm.
right? We want to take that negative connotation when couples say, "Oh, marriage is hard. Marriage is hard."
Mm.
Well, it's challenging, yes, but really, marriage takes a lot of hard work
Right.
with willing hands. So,
Mhm.
how can we as a married couple live in 2025 with hands that are willing, hands that are open, hands that are just ready
Yes.
to serve each other, to help each other out? And this piece of the marriage life in 2025, or this actionable tool, really highlights putting love into action,
Right.
right? Love is powerful.
It is.
Love is a verb.
Mhm.
Remember that song by DC Talk way back in the 90s? Love is a verb.
Yeah.
It's an action verb. And in order to really display love towards your spouse and display love towards other people, there needs to be an action that follows that love, or that saying I love you. Okay, here's
Mhm.
how I love you. There's an
Right.
action that is a company to that word there. And so, how do we
For
live with
sure.
hands willing to help each other out this year? What does that look like for us and for our marriage or for other
Mhm.
people?
Right.
Let's kind of like talk about how important this teamwork idea is and how it comes into play. Okay.
Well, going back to what I was saying in the last point, you looking at the list and saying, "I can do that. I can help with that."
Yeah.
He's doing some laundry, people. He took some laundry and did, and I mean, not that that was such a surprise because he always helps out, but I mean, immediately, like, you didn't hesitate. You just stepped up, and think 2 or 3 loads of laundry are done, and then that, I mean, seems so, like, just a few loads of laundry, that could really help a marriage?
Yeah,
Yes.
because laundry's a pain. Nobody likes to do laundry.
No, it helps a marriage because it's the serving part. When
Yeah.
you serve and you help one another, it's, it speaks volumes.
Mhm. Yeah. And not only just helping out, like, with doing laundry, but, let's say a married couple is getting ready for work, their work week, Monday's coming, and one of us has, like, a lot to do on our plate on that following Monday. And so the weekend can really play into how it impacts the Monday, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially that Sunday afternoon, we start getting engaging. We start getting into gear Monday mode. And there's that sense of like, oh man, I got to get to work. Tomorrow, I got to do A, B, C, D. But for us to be able to come alongside each other and to lift the burden, and that's the key word right there, is
Mhm.
to lift the burden from one another. And so for me to do that for you today, after you shared, um, I got to tackle A, B, C, D, but here's these things that I have that I want to accomplish today. You know, it was just like go mode for me. It was
Mhm.
action mode for me. Just let's get her done. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mm.
And there are those moments where I can come in and help lift those burdens off of you. And then, of course, there are those moments where you come into my life and you also lift my burdens off of me.
Mhm.
And so this is the action mode. This is the love in action piece of this conversation that we're having today
Right.
is living with those willing hands ready to help and
Yes.
serve one another.
Yeah, maybe you all have this part down that we're talking about, like serving one another. You got it down, check, check. But remember what we had challenged at the beginning of the episode is not only looking horizontally to husband and wife, but also vertically to God and asking Him, how would you have us
Mhm.
serve others, this year?
Sure.
Maybe that looks like planning a missions trip later on in the year
Mhm.
or going and serving somewhere somehow. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of need in our world right now where you can just come in agreement and say, maybe we can't go, but maybe we can give.
Mhm.
And that's also
Mhm.
love in action.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
also having that mindset.
Mhm. Yeah.
'Cause it does a lot for a married couple and a family who give and serve and help.
Sure. Yeah. So as we get ready to kind of wrap up this idea,
Hmm.
and we're talking about this third point here is living with willing hands. The key is to approach your marriage, your year this year with how can I help attitude and mindset. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. So
Hmm.
a key way to approach your marriage this year is within how can I help attitude and with a mindset, right? It's a mindset. How can I help you? And I guarantee that if we can live like that
Hmm.
on a daily basis, that really would take our marriage to levels it's never been before.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yeah. And I would like to just wrap up all those, Monty, and just I know a lot of people are setting some goals spiritually in their lives, but taking these three things and
Mhm,
applying them to their
mhm,
relationship with the Lord
mhm,
and helping one another accomplish those.
mhm,
There's nothing more beautiful to see a husband and a wife pursuing God and their relationship with God, for themselves, but
mhm,
with each other.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
so, yeah, we encourage you to do that as well.
yeah. And just like Matthew 19 says, with God, all
All things
things
are
are possible.
possible.
Yes.
Let's try that again.
With God, all
All
things
things
are
are
possible.
possible.
Yes. Now, before we sign off, we want to give you a quick challenge tonight, tomorrow, sometime within the next 24 hours,
Mhm.
as a married couple, you and your spouse get together for 10 minutes. How many minutes?
And
10 minutes. Okay. And ask your spouse, what's one opportunity we can seize together in 2025? We're not asking you to seize 35 opportunities. Start with one, start
mhm.
small, right?
Yeah.
But what is that one opportunity, me and you, as a husband and wife, we can seize together in 2025?
Yeah. Maybe even categorize them like something you
Yeah.
could seize in a week, in a month, and then in the year.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Amen. Amen. Hey, thank you for joining us today and staying tuned and tuning in with us for this. Hey, thank you for joining us today and tuning in to this episode. Before we sign off, I want to ask our audience to do a couple things, or maybe just one thing. So, if you're new to the podcast, because we have a lot of new followers, our podcast grew with 173% of followers this last year. So, if you're new to the podcast, we ask for you to subscribe and rate and review our podcast. This really gives us the ability to allow the podcast to be exposed to a larger audience
Mhm.
in the podcast world. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, every just about every podcast episode is recorded on video, and so you can also catch us live on video if you want to see us in action on the camera.
Yeah.
And those are just a few things to help us reach a larger marriage community, and we would really appreciate
Yes.
that today. So, thanks for listening.
And as always, we pray that you would experience
God's favor.
on your forever.
Thanks for listening to The Favorite Marriage, where you and your spouse can experience God's favor on your forever. If you enjoyed this resource, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time on The Favorite Marriage Podcast.